Hey everybody, we're the Menschwarmers. I'm Jamie. I'm here with my co-host Gabe. Gabe, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good. I want to wish everyone an early happy Hanukkah. We're recording this, I guess not quite on Hanukkah, but I did go to my first Hanukkah party of the season this weekend.
Yeah, it's
So
so
it's
this
the
is this
season.
is the so this is the second latest that Hanukkah can be in the Western calendar. Like it's
Uh huh.
December 25 is the first day of Hanukkah this year. The latest it could possibly start, I believe, is December 26th.
Okay.
So and I don't know if it's because it's a leap year, whatever. But I'm just saying this is about as late as it can be, and it feels weird, doesn't it? Like usually this time of year, I'm
Totally.
like, I'm aware of the other holiday that occurs typically on the first night of Hanukkah this year. But usually it's like, well, that's their thing at the end of the month. Hanukkah, we've already, it's come and gone. Like sometimes it could be like November 22nd or something like
Oh
that,
yeah,
right?
Hanukkah. In other years, Hanukkah could be over.
Do you remember there was a year like maybe 10 years ago where it was on the same day as American Thanksgiving? And that was
Yes.
like, it was like whatever, latkes with gravy and and turkey instead of mashed potatoes. Like people played it up in a fun way, and it's like I think that'll never happen again, just for whatever weird quirks of the calendar. But if you're a split family or whatever, and you do a Christmas, you can't slough off Hanukkah to some earlier part of the year. It's the same day. You got to
That's
accept that
true.
you got to give it equal billing. So
That's
still a
very,
couple
very
weeks
true.
away, but pretty excited. Gabe, a lot of sports to go over, a lot of sports
Yeah.
news to talk about. It's been a
It's
while since
been,
we
you know,
chatted.
it's been a lot going on right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's jump right into it. The stove is hot, full of oil for the season. Frying your sufganiyot and latkes and what have you. But there's also a hot stove going on in baseball right now, and that's really
Ooh,
affecting some
it's
Jewish
yeah.
players.
It is the I think the term is it is the uh Lutka boil, or the pot of boiling oil for it.
Yeah, there's some winter meetings going on, and it's not just about uh, you know how to make the oil last for as long as possible, but they are making the contracts last for as long as they can these days. First one off the bat, the biggest deal in baseball. Juan Soto agreed to a 15-year, $765 million deal. Juan Soto, I'm sorry to break the news to anyone who is excited by that, verbal clickbait. Juan Soto is not Jewish. But the guy who signs his checks is
Yeah,
Steve
Stephen A.
Cohen.
Cohen is definitely Jewish, although not necessarily not someone who, I'm going to put this lightly, dispels any popular stereotypes about wealthy Jewish
Get
people.
out, get out of here. You know what? There's nothing that some SEC violations can't be covered up with by some spending billions of dollars on players for the New York Mets. I mean, I think that
I
brings you some Jewish fans.
He very famously has used a multi-billion-dollar art collection
Right.
to launder some money. I wonder if he is, and I say this nicely. I like the Mets. I know we have a lot of Met fans that listen, but like part of me wonders if like the human action figure that is John Soto is his newest piece of art. He is a little boy buying action figures right now.
Right.
They're
And he
just
got him
his
for he got him
baseball
for a
cards.
decent price, $765 million. That's like 1/3 of what he had to pay the SEC insider trading funds. Anyways, look,
Absolutely.
I think that Mets fans are beside themselves. The way I've heard it best put is just that like the Mets never get this sort of win. It's always the Yankees. Like the Yankees make the big signing, and to get him, and it seems like it was them and the Yankees sort of down to the wire. I think there's
Mhm.
Mets fans who are super excited and should be, but in actual Jewish athlete news, the Yankees got one back. They signed Max Fried today.
Oh,
Max is, of course, the formerly Atlanta Brave pitcher who has been, pretty much their ace or close to for the last 3 or 4 years. He was part of their World Series winning team. He was part of the most Jewish play in World Series history when he pitched to when he pitched to Alex Bregman, and he flew out to Jock Peterson. So he's an all-star. He's come back from Tommy John surgery now. He's a Gold Glover. He is also the last. He's the last pitcher to win the Silver Slugger Award. He will always
he
be the
will. Yeah,
last
that'll
pitcher.
always be famous.
This is a big get for the Yankees. I think. Talk about it a little bit from the Jewish perspective. I think it's their first big Jewish signing, certainly. And we talked before about how the Yankees haven't really had like a huge Jewish player in a while.
At least not a Jewish superstar. I mean,
Yeah, Harrison
obviously Ron
Bader.
Blomberg or Bloomberg.
Yeah,
It's Bloomberg, right?
I think it is pronounced Bloomberg, even though it's only spelled with one O.
Spelled it, yeah. So Ron Blomberg, is probably their most famous all-time Jewish player. Scott Efros and Harrison Bader have been on the team recently.
Yeah, Ken Holtzman obviously was not his most
Not
significant years, but he did pitch with the Yankees. Ike Davis, Kevin Youkilis, cup of coffee, sort of, again, not huge with the Yankees. But this is definitely like, I think there's an argument to be made that he's going to be their biggest Jewish star really ever. And we talked about this before, that it's like, I sort of think it's like not a no brainer, but it's just like, I can't believe that other New York or LA teams haven't like done this and played it up of like, we got this Jewish guy, and isn't that exciting?
Yep. I think it's very exciting. No, you're absolutely right.
I think he's going to be a fan favorite. I mean, we see lots of the people in the sort of Jewish sports media or Jewish adjacent sports media world, like, are Yankees fans. And I think this is going to be a big deal for them. Especially as we get into the next World Baseball Classic coming up pretty soon. And, we'll see if Max decides to be a member of Team Israel. That's coming up. Like, he's not this coming baseball season, but the one after in 2020.
We know he is in the group chat.
Yeah, he is in the group chat.
Yes, go on.
I was going to say the other main trade was our hometown hero Spencer Horwitz, former guest of the Menschwarmers. Gabe, you interviewed him. About
my close personal friend Spencer Horwitz.
And Spencer Horwitz was traded today to the Cleveland Guardians by the Toronto Blue Jays. Feels a little bittersweet, I think, as a Jays fan. I mean, I think we got a good return. I'm sort of split. As a Jays fan, I think it was a good trade. As a fan of Spencer, I'm sad to see him go. We'll see how he does in Cleveland. Obviously, they have a first baseman in Josh Naylor. So we will see where he plays or how much he plays.
He could be playing some second. They did just trade their second. They just trade their second baseman.
Giménez, yeah.
So, I mean, they're going to need some room. And it could absolutely be.
He sort of blocked second in Toronto.
He could play a little outfield. What's interesting is that between him and Stephen Kwan, they might have the most ethnically diverse outfield in baseball.
At least of like American-born players, probably.
It's true.
Point. Yeah. I mean, I think given the way the Guardians are set up, they're sort of a team that does it on the cheap, I guess. There's a limit to how much they're going to pay people or pay them indefinitely, even though they were a good team. I mean, they made the American League Championship Series this year. But I think that sort of means that given what they gave up for Spencer, I think they have some faith in him and want him as an everyday player. It's possible that he becomes a sort of offense first super utility guy. I know that's sort of like counterintuitive, but because of the permanent DH now and the fact that a lot of teams sort of make up a DH by aggregate, there is an opportunity to have if you're a player who can play decent enough defense but pretty good offense at a bunch of different positions like Spencer can, then you can get some run really with a full season's worth of games. Again, in the aggregate, that you're not necessarily an everyday player, but you end up with
but you're going to get 400
at
bats somehow.
Yeah, exactly.
Like a Marwin
that's basically what we saw from Spencer last year. That's basically what we saw from Spencer last year. He ended up playing about equal time at second base and first base. I'm pretty sure the Jays tried him out in left field at AAA level, but he didn't play left field at all.
And he played left for Team Israel, so there's still the opportunity.
He played left for Team Israel as well. Yeah, so whether the Guardians have an interest in continuing to do that, I don't know. I do think though that he's an opening day roster guy. He showed that he's an everyday ball player. He was like a plus offensive bat last year. Hit 265, on base percentage is 357. So a 9% walk rate, pretty good. Pretty solid for anyone, especially a pretty young player.
To quote Brad Pitt quoting Michael Lewis quoting Scott Boras, he gets on base. Not Scott Boras. Billy Beane. He gets on base.
Right. Yeah, he gets on base. Again, the defense is probably an issue. I don't think his bat is good enough to. He hasn't shown that his bat has been good enough to be a sort of permanent DH type player.
He's very much. One thing that's interesting about him going to Cleveland, and you mentioned this earlier, he is stuck behind one of the top ever asked or top ever discussed Mike Jacobs All-Stars.
Who in Josh Naylor?
In Josh Naylor, a
That's
Canadian,
true.
but not a Jew. I did go to camp with a Josh Naylor. I think
Right.
a lot of people
Just
who went to Jewish camp went with various Josh's Naylor. But no, this Josh Naylor is not Jewish, but he is Canadian.
Yeah. I don't know if we ever talked about this on the pod, but I think we had like erroneously reported or had at least tweeted like something about how Mets longtime PR guy Jay Horwitz is Spencer's grandfather. And apparently that's not true. It's just a joke that
it was a joke
when they met or
I think
were involved
we've discussed that it may have been true, but decided it was a joke then. Decided again.
Anyways, good to know or noting with interest. So anyways, those are the big Jewish baseball moves for now. Again, sorry to see Spencer go. Lots of muzzle and good luck to him in Cleveland. For any listeners on on the western part of Lake Erie, that's where Cleveland is, right?
Yeah, I think it's on the southern part of Lake Erie.
Right. Yeah. Any South Erie Jews out there looking to welcome Spencer to the big. I don't know what are nicknames for Cleveland. I'm running out of things to say about it, but I know that there are Jews.
Cleveland rocks.
Rock and Roll City. Yeah. So next time, Jan Wenner. Next time you're in Cleveland for a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, invite your fellow Jew, Spencer Horwitz, and
here's a quick Cleveland story. And distant cousins of mine will recognize themselves in the story. A distant cousin of mine met her husband, now husband, on Tinder. She was living in London, Ontario, and he was living in Cleveland, Ohio. And she had set her like distance to be 150 kilometers or whatever, so she could catch like the southwestern Ontario radius.
Right,
Cleveland, as the crow flies
is just due south of London, basically.
Yeah, and now they're married.
That's really funny. That's very funny.
So there's a good Jewish Cleveland story for you.
Love travels on the across Lake Erie,
Across Lake Erie. We've been following the story of Jake Retzlaff throughout the season, and it looks like, we know, unfortunately, BYU is not going to make the college football playoff.
Yeah.
They were hanging on, and they lost to Arizona State 2 weeks ago, actually at a game my dad was at that nearly ended in a riot. It was the first college football game of his life, but he decided to go to see the Jewish quarterback play.
Yeah, they had a shot and ended up ranked 17th in the country. Just
and now ASU was in the playoff, so that game really mattered. It was essentially a playoff game.
Yeah, that's true, I guess. So Jake Retzlaff, their Jewish quarterback, incongruously at BYU, he did sign an NIL deal, a name, image, and likeness rights deal with Menschwarmers, which is pretty exciting. I think we tweeted out the JTA story about that. Pretty cool stuff, to really be self-representing as a Jew.
And he's the first Manischewitz sponsored athlete. It is like the Jewish Wheaties box. It's the matzah box.
Exactly. So, buy some Retzlaff matzah this coming Passover. They will be playing Colorado in the Alamo Bowl at the Alamo Dome. Yeah, on December 28th. So that is a very odd circumstance where they are playing an in-conference team. The reason is because the Alamo Bowl is like, it used to be a Big 12, Pac-12 game, but because the Pac-12 dissolved, they get a choice of like a certain former Pac-12 team. This is very screwy stuff because of the way the rights did. So they got BYU as the Big 12 representative, and then Colorado as the representative of the former Pac-12 teams. So it's very funny because they didn't actually play this year. Like that could have been, if things
a week 2 game.
Yeah, exactly. That could have been a week 2 game, but instead it's a week 14 game. So that's their bowl game. Exciting stuff, good.
During
good
Hanukkah, as we talked about, it's a late Hanukkah.
It's a good, third night. That's a good fourth night game. If you need something to do on the fourth night, it'll give Retzlaff certainly more exposure because Colorado,
Deion Sanders, almost all their games are nationally televised. And I think this will only be his second nationally televised game of the year.
Okay.
And it's unknown. I don't think he's able to come back for a 5th year after this one.
Yeah.
I think he's transferred twice, and I think he's played all of his eligibility. So maybe he'll get signed. I mean, maybe he'll go play in Europe. You know, the sky's the limit for him. Well, not the sky, but you know, the ceiling is the limit for him. So he's still got some room to grow.
Look, there's only so many quarterbacks. There's always guys coming into the league. I think it is not necessary that he's going to get drafted, but it's a possibility. You know, again, there's plenty of there's only so many quarterbacks coming out in a year. Even if he doesn't get drafted, he could be a guy who fills out a practice squad.
He could be our Tommy DeVito.
Yeah,
you know, absolutely. An undrafted guy who works his way up, you know, with his ethnic charm.
That is a great idea. And if there ever was, if he made the NFL, I think he'd be the guy to do it. You know, Tommy DeVito, this sort of embracing the Italian heritage for North Jersey. We just got to get Jake Retzlaff to I don't know, on the Chargers or something like that. And
when Tommy DeVito scores a touchdown, he sort of does the Italian, the Nonna handshake. I guess for if Jake Retzlaff scores, he'll do a shrug.
Yeah, that's not bad. We don't have a Jewish motion the way the Italians have the
way the Italians do. No, we don't really. Maybe sort of like sneezing. I think a very loud sneeze might be the move.
Talking about college football, this past weekend also brought us the joys of Jewish actor Timothée Chalamet.
Yeah, our newest Jewish football pundit.
Yeah, that's right.
Watch out, Rich Eisen and Paul Feinbaum.
He appeared on College GameDay and nailed a bunch of picks, including picking Ohio over Miami in the MAC championship. Yeah, Miami of Ohio in the MAC championship game, and when nobody else did. And it was just like, you know, it seemed in part he was reading off the script, but also just like maybe he just really likes sports and is a, you know, just real elite ball knower.
Were they? He's in the Bob Dylan movie. It's nice that they got a Jewish guy to play Bob Dylan.
Yes.
Did they like? Why was he on College GameDay?
I think it was like a combination of like wanting to promote the movie and like you have certain obligations, and also like probably saying like, yeah, absolutely, I would love to be on College GameDay.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Like a Dylanologist that we don't know about, or maybe Paul Feinbaum could be a Dylanologist we don't know about.
It's a good question. I'm sure there's some overlap there, but I don't actually know how it works. I would imagine it's something like your publicist and the studio that's promoting the film say to you like, you know, we would like you to do these things for promo. Which of them do you want to do? And it's like College GameDay. It's like I can imagine that list and just being like, I get to be on ESPN. You know, I get to be on College GameDay. Great, like I'll do that 100%. If you have some
the SEC championship game,
yeah, like that sounds great. Like I'm not promoting anything. I'd love to go to the SEC championship game. He is apparently like quite a Knicks fan, which is normal, I think, for a kid growing up in New York City. I
wonder if he's Yankees or Mets. Is he more excited about Max Fried being signed because he's Jewish, or Juan Soto being signed because he's really good?
That's a good question. We need to get to the bottom of
New York is divided.
Sports knowledge. He hasn't really done a sports movie per se. I don't think. I mean, I guess it depends on whether or not Dune. You know, Dune. There's some worm riding. It's a sport in a sense, but not exactly.
I was actually going to say that I think Little Women, they cut a really, really long like Thanksgiving football scene from both the book and the movie. Not many people know about this. But in it, Laurie is a really effective quarterback, you know, sending the March family on really complicated routes.
That's really funny. I am excited for A Complete Unknown. Are you excited for it's coming out Erev Hanukkah? So
yeah,
are you excited for Bob Dylan? You know, you're this is about like early Dylan going electric. I know you're more of a street legal era guy, but you know, you like early Dylan as well. Not to say you don't like early Dylan, but you know.
You know, I'm quite excited for it. I would love to see his Zionist period really put forth on screen. I think, you know, understanding what was coming in when he wrote License to Kill and Joker Man would be, or Neighborhood Bully, when he wrote Neighborhood Bully about Israel, it would be very good to see. But no, I'm excited.
Nothing stopping them from just making a Dylan movie every 5 years and just like, all right, now we're on to the next period, you know?
Right. Like and have your motorcycle crash with Dylan.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm sure you get sick of playing the same roles or whatever, but it is interesting that like pretty much every musical biopic has been like a slice in time. Like that's the nature of it, right? It's like, we're going to show you these 15 years or 10 years or whatever. And then
Bob Dylan has to think about his entire life before he goes on stage.
Every one of these movies is these guys thinking about their entire life before they go on stage. And I'm sure we'll see some of that as well. But it's just like, it's like, wouldn't you like to come back 5 years later? Just like, all right, coming back from his motorcycle crash. And 5 years later, it's like making Desire. Like we got, like this is like, it may not be as dramatic as like going, the Newport Folk Festival. No, but like
I
even
agree.
that probably come on. There's the
Rolling Thunder Review. I'd like to see that fictionalized or maybe going back to the Jewish thing here when he's on stage with the band in the last waltz. I'd love to have a thematic or a cinematic discussion of where he got that hat and perhaps why he chose to wear the hat. On the last waltz. I'm curious though, I guess we're right in the time of going electric and Like a Rolling Stone is a big part of the movie. It's the single from the movie. Is someone playing fellow Jew Robbie Robertson in the movie?
I don't know. So I haven't seen Robbie listed as cast in the movie because I know like Scoot McNairy is playing Woody Guthrie and Edward Norton's playing Pete Seeger, Boyd Holbrook's playing Johnny Cash.
Probably playing Al Cooper, another Jewish member of Bob Dylan's cadre.
Yeah, like Albert Grossman, I think, is being played in the movie. I don't know if Ginsberg's in it. Probably not. But James Mangold, the director, is Jewish. Timothée Chalamet is Jewish. He is wearing a prosthetic, which I don't. He seems to be wearing a prosthetic nose, which I don't really take issue with, given that Chalamet is Jewish. I think it is.
Okay, so we have Charlie Tahan. Who is a child actor from I Am Legend, who is playing Al Cooper. Okay. So there's somebody. Yeah. We know that. And
lots of Jewish content. I feel like that's the most Jewish Jewish movie this Hanukkah.
We have a Bob Newirth. There's another one.
Okay.
So there's a lot of Jews here. Dan Fogler's playing Albert Grossman. I feel like Dan Fogler plays a lot of old Jews.
There's another movie coming out in a couple of days I haven't really heard much about, aside from knowing that it exists, which is called September 5 and is a historical reenactment of the Munich massacre.
Well, this was a quite a what's the word I'm looking for?
Quite a turn.
This is quite a turn, yeah.
I mean, I honestly I don't know that much about it except that it exists. No one has really talked about it as far as I've seen as like a big Christmas movie or one that's going to compete for Oscars or anything like that. So I don't know. Maybe it'll just come and go. I would love to see it and potentially talk to someone from the movie. I think it's more about the sort of like Peter Sarsgaard's the star and he plays Rune Aldridge, Rune Arledge. Sorry, the legendary.
It's about sort of broadcasting it then.
Yeah, exactly. The ABC broadcaster. So I think it's more about like broadcasting the decisions they made. About how this affected coverage of the Olympics, things like that. So I don't know. I don't know exactly what it's about. I would like to see it, and that will be an interesting watch. Keep an eye out for that as well. I don't think it's coming out actually like wide until after the new year. It's one of those sort of like released at the end of the year for Oscars and then going wide after that. But we should keep an eye on that. I mean, obviously we've talked about the Munich massacre a lot and its effect on Jews in sports.
In lighter news. We've got two more things we want to cover. First, want to give a hearty mazel tov to Jewish actress Haley Steinfeld on her engagement to non-Jewish quarterback Josh Allen.
Right. Yeah, that's pretty exciting. Growing list of elite athletes with Jewish spouses.
Do you think so? I've come up with a number of scenarios here. I think it's unrealistic that he will convert.
I would imagine. I don't know what Josh Allen's background is, but I think it's just like pretty like Midwestern white, right? Like,
yeah, it is. He's from Wyoming, I think. Where I think if there's a Jew, an alarm goes off. No, he's from California, went to university in Wyoming. But he grew up on a farm in Fresno. So that is pretty out there. Having been to Fresno, California, it is out there. Sure. So he really, he's got a sibling named McKenna. They're pretty far from Jewish.
Okay.
But with Haley Steinfeld, I guess he's entering some Jewish, like she's only half Jewish, but he is entering a Jewish family. She was raised Jewish, so that's exciting. So you wonder the next one, do you think their kids are going to be Jewish? Are they going like the Ewan McGregor, Daniel Craig route of non-Jewish men with Jewish wives who raise a Jewish family?
I guess we'll see. I mean, it's something to keep an eye out on. I wouldn't be shocked if we see some, let's say, Jewish paraphernalia at the wedding. Once there's wedding photos, maybe a chuppah, maybe a glass breaking. I guess we'll see. But that's exciting. Joins the ranks of Jalen Brunson and Domantas Sabonis, Kevin Love, among others.
Ooh, Kevin Love's a great example.
Yeah. Of elite athletes with Jewish wives. So always excited to hear about those. I think that's a good. That's how we can get a few. That's how we can get a few quarterbacks and power forwards on the team. If we can't come by them naturally, then we have to look outside.
All ones.
We have to look outside.
Yes, exactly. So that there's one other sort of story to talk about, or I think coming up. I know you're not so familiar with car racing and sports, but next week, starting next month, by the time I think our next episode comes out, is a yearly tradition called the Dakar Rally. They say it's the hardest race in all of sports, and it's actually got a pretty spectacular Jewish connection. Which and a number of Jews participating this year. I know before the show we talked about it a little bit different, but there's a bit of research I've done and I want to share it with you guys. So if you know, the Dakar Rally used to be an endurance race from Paris in France to Dakar in Senegal. Long history, lots of people have completed it. There's a competition aspect, but thousands of people try every year just to finish it. Okay. And it's the hardest race in the world. I think in 2020, they had to move it. They had to move it in the 2000s from Africa to South America because it was too dangerous in Africa for like some guy to be alone on his motorcycle in the middle of the desert. And then they moved to South America. And since 2019, it's been held in Saudi Arabia.
Okay.
For the last 5 or 6 years, for the last 5 years, there have been a number of athletes who otherwise participate for Israel in their sports, in racing, who are Jewish, who participate under the flags of other countries in Saudi Arabia. Okay. So in 2019, the first time this happened, after the race, one of the teams said sort of like a, psych, we're Israeli. And they were pretending to be a Belgian team. And they had 7 drivers, all in various, like from Belgium. But they were actually Israelis who had gotten Belgian, like sporting racing citizenship, because otherwise they wouldn't be allowed to participate.
I see.
And even though they still don't have diplomatic relations, now there are at least 3 Israeli drivers participating in the official competition. The start list, for the overall group hasn't been announced yet. But we've got 3. We've got somebody who participated a long time ago. He was one of sort of the secret ones from Belgium in 2019. Charlie Gottlieb, who is Israeli, who's participating. He's a navigator. And he'll be in the race. So you can follow him. The next one is Gad Nachmani, who is participating under the Portugal flag, but he is Israeli. He has won a number of races before. Sure. And another one, a woman who's actually trying to compete and trying to win in the bicycle category. Her name is Yael Kadshai. And she crashed out last year, but won a couple of races this year, sort of on the general tour. She won the Greek rally, she won the Moroccan rally, she's won the Israeli rally, obviously. And she's going to be participating in her second Dakar. And just so you know what it is, you are out there with a map and they're like, get to this 900 kilometer place away today. And we'll see you tonight. And whoever gets there the fastest over 14 days, does every 14 stages the fastest, wins. So it's pretty cool that there are a bunch of Israelis, especially those that have had to do it secretly in the last 5 years.
That is exciting. I think it's, racing, like bike racing, car racing, different things, like seems to be one of the few places where it's like, yeah, we got a team together. Like we're racing under a flag of like convenience, like a ship, and it's like, we're all under this team, but like, as you say, it's sort of like a bit of a psych, so maybe one day
especially when it violates some anti-Semitic laws of the home country.
Well, maybe we'll get an Israeli team together at some point in the future.
You never know.
That's pretty exciting. So let's end it there. I think it's probably going to be our last time reaching you all in 2024. but want to wish everybody a happy Hanukkah. There are always copies of books for sale about Jewish athletes to give as Hanukkah gifts to enterprising young children who have interest in that sort of thing. That's our as much of a gift list as we'll do. Get the baseball Talmud or the Encyclopedia of Jewish Athletes.
Or
other Jewish
classic,
sports content.
The classic light reading from the film Airplane. Exactly. Jewish sporting legends.
That's a good date. That's a good like night 3, night 4 gift. You've given the big stuff. Time for the books.
Are you doing gifts every night for your children?
No, I barely. Honestly, so much crap for our children already that it's like,
I know.
I'd rather they didn't get gifts at all. Like they can get I don't know. They're a little young for like an experience as a gift or something like that, or to understand what paper currency is.
Abby, I got you tickets to the Raptors 905 game.
Yeah, exactly. I think we could do a little better than the Raptors 905.
Well,
Yeah, I hear you. Anyways, but gifts are just such a pain. Every year it's just more and more stuff. And if you think that's me being a Scrooge, then you're accurate. That is my feelings. And the Christmasification of Hanukkah, which even predates my existence, is a humbug of sorts.
We're trying to do consumables, like we've got some puzzles, obviously, and
sure.
Like
he eats the puzzles.
Toys.
Your kid shouldn't be eating the puzzles, Gabe.
Yeah, he shouldn't be eating the puzzles. But
I have a book about a curious young monkey who ate a puzzle piece and had to go to the hospital.
We're trying to get him some consumables after that. So like, if you give him like, a miniature arrow on, and this is your Hanukkah gift this year, like enjoy, he would be beside himself.
Right. Anyways, we do wish everyone a happy Hanukkah.
Happy Chanukah,
wherever you're celebrating it, and there's going to be an NFL game on the second day of Hanukkah this year, on the first day of Hanukkah this year, which is very exciting. I think they're scheduled to coincide with the Christian celebration that's going on as well.
Is it which is the birthday of Yeshua?
December 25, right? Isn't that?
Yes. But
yeah.
Is there a football game on that day?
Yeah, there's a football game on the 25th. Yeah,
on a Wednesday.
Yeah. On the day of the first night of Hanukkah. Okay. On a Wednesday. Very weird. But I'm saying if you need something to do on Hanukkah and you've had enough Chinese food and movies, there's a football game on, so that's pretty exciting.
The screening of A Complete Unknown has let out.
Exactly. Anyways, we'll leave it there for now. As always, we're produced by the Canadian Jewish News and Michael Freeman. You can find us on the Canadian Jewish News's new and revamped website. Wow, it's so nice to look at. The CJN.ca. You can subscribe to our podcast wherever you get your podcasts, and make sure to follow us on Twitter as well at Menschwarmers. Be with you back in 2025. Thanks for listening.